Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 1 hour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during consideration of this resolution, all time is yielded for the purpose of debate only, and I would like to yield the customary 30 minutes to my good friend, the former chairwoman of the Rules Committee, Ms. Slaughter of New York. Pending which, Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to ask unanimous consent that all of my colleagues might have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, when you asked me to clarify the number of the resolution, I'm reminded of my mother when she used to ask me if I wanted to take out the trash. She was not asking me if I wanted to take out the trash. She was suggesting very politely that it was my responsibility to get out of my chair and get out there and take out that trash. And I think about all the folks that invest themselves in our success here. When you give me a chance to clarify, candidly, I'm a little surprised that I need to, because I'm surrounded by a team of excellence that has to happen. I should have just spoken it right back to you. We have 2 bills today, Mr. Speaker, that are the result of a whole lot of mothers, a whole lot of staffers, a whole lot of constituents asking their members of Congress if they'd like to take out the trash. Telling folks that they have responsibilities that need to be handled, and they need to be handled now. It's 2 bills that this rule makes in order for consideration today, Mr. Speaker. It's S-612, which is the Water Infrastructure Improvements for the Nation Act. Now, that's what they call it on the Senate side. On our side, it's the Water Resources Development Act, the WIRDA bill. A bill that authorizes projects one by one, considered by the U.S. House of Representatives, not led by the agencies, but led by the People's House and directed to the agencies for accomplishment. The second bill is House Resolution 2028. It's the continuing resolutions bill for FY 2017 funding, Mr. Speaker. I don't need to tell you, you know the Appropriations Committee well, but this year, for the first time, since the people of the 7th District of Georgia entrusted me with a voting card, we passed an appropriations bill on time. We did it for our veterans. It was signed by the President of the United States before the end of the fiscal year. We took a step at getting back towards regular order, a commitment we have all made to one another, and a commitment that this funding bill will bring to fruition. It's not what any of us would have wanted on day one. It's not the way any of us believe that we could have completed this process had we had more time, but it is the proper way to make sure that certainty rather than uncertainty governs this land. I've got my colleague from the Rules Committee and the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Cole from Oklahoma, here with me, Mr. Speaker, so I won't belabor that side of the issue. But what I do want to talk about is something I know well, and that's the WIRDA bill. The WIRDA bill, Mr. Speaker, this Water Infrastructure Improvements for the Nation Act, came out of the Transportation Committee, on which I have the great privilege of serving. The Transportation Committee, Mr. Speaker, it's one of those rare committees that you don't read about on CNN's website. You don't see it on Fox News or MSNBC. On the Transportation Committee, we get together, Republicans and Democrats, and we talk it out. We talk it out because it turns out if what you're interested in as citizens of Florida and the Everglades and Port Everglades and the restoration of those of marvelous natural resources down there, that's not just a Florida issue, that's an American issue. If you're interested, as my friends from South Carolina are, in dredging the port in Charleston and in making that a world-class shipping opportunity, that's not just a South Carolina issue, that's an American issue. If you're like my friends all across this country, Mr. Speaker, from New Hampshire to California to Texas to Colorado, you have projects that are vitally important, not just to your constituency, but to the economy of the United States of America, and that's what we do on the Transportation Committee. Transportation Committee is a success if we can help you get to work a little bit faster. We are a success if we can get your kids to that soccer game just a little bit faster, but we are committed to moving freight, goods, services produced by American hands with American labor to their destinations, not just across this land, but across this planet. And that's what the WIRDA bill, controlling those ports and waterways through which so much commerce moves, controls. Mr. Speaker, I talked about regular order a little bit earlier. I have to brag, if I can, here at what may be our last day together. The the chairman of the Transportation Committee, his name's Bill Schuster, he comes out of the great state of Pennsylvania. When he took over the Transportation Committee, he said these projects are so important, this bipartisan commitment to the American economy is so important, I'm not going to let it get delayed. Now, I confess that we're here on the last day perhaps of our time together. It looked for a while like we might not be able to move this through, but our chairman, through the power of persuasion, fought day in and day out, not for 1 year, but for 2 years, to ensure that we could build on the success, which was the WIIN bill in 2014, and bring yet another WIIN bill in 2016. And I will say to my friends, if you did not get everything you want, I promise you, as our friend Kevin McCarthy from California likes to say, you needed everything you got. Even if you didn't get everything that you needed, we're going to do this again. That's what's so great about regular order here, Mr. Speaker. When there's only one train leaving a station, we can't work together on issues. We've got to jam it all in there. We've got to pack everything in because we've only got one chance to serve the people who elected us. But when we get back to regular order, when we know there's another bill coming tomorrow and another bill coming the next day and another bill coming the next day, it gives us the opportunities to achieve these things one small step at a time. And if your constituents are like mine, Mr. Speaker, they didn't send me here to yank the pendulum back and forth from left to right. They sent me here to make a little bit of that progress one day at a time. The WIIN bill exemplifies the very best of us in that way. It represents small steps in almost every jurisdiction in this institution to grow the American economy, to serve our constituents back home, to make sure that the American taxpayer is getting $1 worth of value out of $1 worth of their tax dollar. If you can't tell, Mr. Speaker, I'm tremendously proud of this work that has gone in to this bill. My great hope is that my colleagues will support this rule so that we can move on to support that underlying legislation later on this morning. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentlelady from New York.